Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's doing okay this lovely March morning, which is actually supposed to be nice and warm today. So welcome to March office hours. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Everybody should be able to see this. If anybody happens to notice anybody else is in the waiting room, just let me know because I may not be able to see it with everything else that I have open. So this month's office hours, we're going to talk about the geography tab. Before we get into that, I have a couple updates and a couple of our past office hours for any of my loyal followers, or anybody who comes back to look at it. One of the things was location and hierarchy. We talked about during locations at one point, and oh, hold on. I'm trying to get to my tab, but my little thing keeps coming up because I want to go to Fairfield. I had said at one point that the top part when you go into locations says locations and hierarchy. And I had said at one point, I'm like, I don't really normally use that a lot. So I kind of just shrink it down. Scroll down to location here. So one of the things I realized is actually super useful for, we've been adding a few physical objects, some photographs to our archival collections. And one easy way to kind of go through a lot of those, and this will be a whole nother topic that we'll talk about when we get into archives and those kind of collections at some point. But I have this photograph of Lottie Randolph Mitchell that I added to an archival collection. And when you have the location hierarchy at the top, if you hit show hierarchy, it shows you where that photo is located within the archival collection. So she's down in a particular folder and somewhere. So this would work with a photograph or like a letter or something like that that you wanted to digitize. So that little location and hierarchy is actually super useful for that, because I went in and I can add more things from here and navigate and just see where she is. So if you have any questions about that at some point, we can go over it. And like I said, we'll cover archival collections at some point. The other update was in sets, because we had talked about not duplicating a set because it would duplicate the objects, and then it made a liar out of me while I was trying to demonstrate it. I went back and followed up and looked. It no longer, it must have happened in an update, it no longer duplicates the objects when you duplicate a set. So you can go ahead and duplicate a set, which I would think would be really useful, especially in things like exhibition setups. If you're like, okay, well, here's the list of all of the stuff, and we want to keep a list of all of the stuff, but then we want another set where we can kind of add and subtract. So you can create a copy of that and then kind of move stuff around if you want. So yes, go ahead and duplicate the set. It won't duplicate all the objects, which is great. So this is my official go ahead and do that. And I think there was another question with it, but I couldn't find it because I spent the morning rewatching myself on Zoom, which was awesome. And I could see myself writing notes, but I can't find the notes that I wrote down. So if anybody else remembers what the other question was or the other issue was, let me know. It'll probably come up at some point. So anyway, talking about geography. So in our list of options and pages, I'm just going to go into going into Fairfield. I'm going to do like I've done before and have the sandbox open and have Fairfield's page open, database open as well, and kind of hop around a little bit. So if we go into objects in Fairfield at the moment, let's go to this just for kicks. So as you go into an object, and you'll see on the left-hand side, you've got your normal pages with basic information, physical characteristics. Some of you may have already used Geography tab, don't know. So you go into Geography, and at the top, it'll show you a map, a big giant map. It had shrunk at one point, and I asked for them to expand it. So now you have like duplicated global map. So this is actually linked through or uses like Google Maps, basically. So it's going to be that kind of setup and links to their, I don't even know how to say it, like their script or their setup to use the maps. It's not something just within CollectiveAccess or just Connecticut Collections. This is wider setup out there, which is kind of cool. So there's the two parts here. There's the map aspect here where you can actually link to a particular pinpoint on a map or a location or an area. There's also geographic notes on the bottom. That's a free text field. So that you can just kind of type in whatever you want. So for instance, and I have to look at the record to see if I know where this game took place, where somebody, I'm assuming from Fairfield, beat Cheshire 5-4. We could write, you know, this game took place at such another ball field, or, you know, any other notes, just random notes that we want to add in there. Because sometimes they'll put in a map location and then say that something was made at this location or somebody used something in this location. And then you can, like many other fields, you can add as many geographic notes as you want. Same as above, you can add as many georeference sections as you want. So why, and I'll get into the how in a little bit, why use this? Because it's really cool going online and being able to search through a map for things in a particular location to see how many related things are from a particular area. So if I go on to Connecticut Collections at the moment, so this feature is not great on our system right now. This will be improved. I'm going to go to browse all objects. This is going to be improved when we do our upgrade this year. And I'll show you like an improved version so you can see how it'll work. So this will be on the public portal. You get kind of this setup. So up in the upper right, this is actually display options, which honestly, I don't think anyone ever really notices because it's kind of hidden. So it changes back and forth between kind of a thumbnail view, like this with like a title, objects, things like that, to a list view. And I can see it working, so this takes a second, where you're getting, you know, like a thumbnail and a title and just a different way of viewing it. Or then where the little world is, you get the map view, which is where we started. In theory, what you're supposed to be able to do is zoom in on the map. It'll tell you how many things are located around a certain area, and oops. And then you can click on the little dot and it'll tell you what things are where. This currently does not work in Connecticut Collections portal, but it will. Well, I'll show you a version of a working one. So Minnesota, I may have mentioned before, is almost like our sister group with this. They have very much the same setup as we do, kind of modeled after us, and we're kind of very parallel with what we're doing. So I'm going to go to their public portal. So this is what their public portal looks like. We're probably going to do something similar for our upgraded version, because it goes right down, has a lot of their institutions at the bottom, that you can go right to a specific institution, which is great. For purposes of this, we're going to go, right now, if I go to explore and browse, it would theoretically let me go through and do what I just did on our portal, but it times out because I think they just have too much stuff and have a timeout feature that's not set. So I'm going to search for Halloween in here and come up with a bunch of results. This is coming up with, I have to keep moving our window around, sorry guys. Comes up with objects, comes up with other stuff. So I'm just going to go to full results. And it has that same bunch of options over on the top right. You'll see it has the like the light box, the list, and then the world. So we're in the map view. As you zoom in, actually like the number of objects. So I'll have to see if I don't know if they do that or not. So you can click on something and it'll show you what objects are related to that location. And then as you see, and I'll give you like a little thumbnail, and you can also click on the object and see where this was taking part or where they had mapped this to be. So that's a couple locations there. There's more things down in this area that you can zoom in on. So that's not been digitized yet. Whoever has that in. There's one behind it and I can't see it, which is interesting because I can only zoom in so far. So I don't know how far in general this will let you zoom in. Something we'll find out when we do the upgrade. The Halloween display, so it sends you right to the record. Also, there's another like part of the map down there where it shows you exactly where it is. So it's kind of cool being able to go in and see like an area of stuff. If you were looking at a block of, let me zoom out more to see how much more Minnesota stuff. Also, same rules as before, you guys. If anybody has any questions as we go, feel free to like raise a virtual hand or just let me know or ask. I can't see everybody, so you can just pop in with a question if you want. So this is kind of a cool feature to be able to do that and go in and look at stuff and look at the sets of photographs and things that people have in. So in theory, this is what our Connecticut Collections portal will look like once we do the upgrade. So how do you get those in if you've not used it yet? So we're going to go into the sandbox, and I already set a one thing up, but it's kind of focusing. It's kind of focusing in the right area. So I've got a funeral at the old burying ground. So this is a Fairfield image, because as I've mentioned in the past, a lot of the data in the sandbox, like the sandbox is totally fake. You can do whatever you want to it. But there are some actual records or some originated as real records in there to kind of give everybody the full feeling of what something would look like. But if you're in the sandbox, you can do whatever you want. So this is funeral at the old burying ground. This is a Fairfield image. I keep skipping by geography. So I know where this is. So I want to map where this is in an image so we can see anything in this area. So this is Beach Road in Fairfield. It's actually a stone's throw from my museum. So up in this box, it's like a little search box up in the top right of the little map section. I can start typing Beach Road, spell everything out just for ease of use. I don't think you have to spell Connecticut. You can just go with the CT. And then once you start typing, unlike a lot of other things, when you start typing, the little gear starts spinning. This one, you have to hit the little arrow to start searching. So when you click that, the gear will start turning. This is a pretty straightforward location. So we're right to the old burying ground where we want to be. So there's a couple different ways of doing this. All of these little markers on the other side are ways to mark the location. So I can either take drop a pin, like right smack in the middle of the old burying ground and just say, this is where it is. If you've done something accidentally and you put a pin over in Wolf Swamp instead, and that's not where you want to be, you can go down and there's a little trash can, so you can delete it or you can edit. And it says save, cancel, or clear all. I'm going to clear all those just for a couple other options that we can do. So you can, if you're in an area where you don't know exactly, like the exact pinpoint of where something is, but you know the general idea, like we know something might be around our museum, you can do a circle and just kind of draw a big section. So it'll at least kind of say it's somewhere in that area. Clear that. You can do a square, which it'll just kind of literally draw a square around something in that area. If you don't like the circle, it's 6 1/2 dozen. Really useful for blocks, I suppose, if someone's got a nicely lined up block in their for their object. There's also this little polygon looking thing up here that you can draw. So just for kicks, because the map of the old burying ground or the section of the old burying ground is very specific, I can draw a shape. So I can draw this right around the burying ground. And then it'll tell you, click on the first point to close this shape. So now my location for this is literally actually the shape of the old burying ground, which is kind of cool. In theory, if I knew like an exact grave or something that I wanted to mark, I could pretty much do that. So I'm going to save that, even though we're in just the sandbox, but just for kicks, I'm going to save it.
Hey, Diane, what's the little line right above the polygon?
The line, so the line's interesting. And sometimes I get it to work and sometimes I don't. Like if you have something that's on a street, but you don't know the exact address, you can do the line and say, we know something's on Beach Road, but we don't know where, and I don't want to draw the whole circle. You can start drawing the line, click to continue, and there's like a finish point. So you can click there. And that will just locate something along that street. So according to this, and it can be like 3. So like a click, a midpoint, and an end. So if I know something's on Beach Road, then I can just click last point. Oh, click last point to finish the line. Oh, okay. So I can do that. So now it's finished. It'll show up as a little hint in that box of how to do it. Drag handles and markers. Oh, so you can edit features from here. Let me see if I can get rid of this guy without getting rid of the other one, just for kicks. Click on a feature to remove. I did click on a feature to remove. Oh, there we go. So double click on a feature to remove and it'll get rid of that line. But my cemetery little shape is still there. Just in case, I'm going to save it because I always save in this, so it doesn't yell at me. So it's a really useful tool. So you're not always stuck having to put an exact pin in. You're not always stuck having to do like a whole circle of stuff that's irrelevant. I really like it for going in and doing buildings. Like if you have several photographs, it's honestly the best. I think it's the best for photographs and images. You can go in and okay, thanks, Joanne. See ya. She has to run. It's great if you have a series of building photographs. You have historic building in town from like 200 years ago, you can put a pin in that. You have a picture of it last week, you can put a pin in that location. So in theory, when you go into the portal, once it's updated, it'll show like the series of all those photos all together. And you can go to those records for everything. It'll have a nice like comparison. Let's see. So that's that part of it. And again, you know, if you have another bit of detail for something like this, if you want to say this is looking south, because you know that the burying ground is over on this side, and you know that's where the little pavilion used to be, you can just say, you know, from opposite side of Beach Road looking south, you know, or something like that, if you wanted to. You don't necessarily have to, but just to add notes for yourself. Let's see. Oh, that was the other thing. This is actually really cool for Fairfield just got a National Park Service grant. Let me just get into regular objects so I can get to sets. Fairfield got a National Park Service grant to work on a Pequot War archaeological dig. And when the archaeologists go through and did recording of the items that they found, they wrote down the latitude and longitude of all of their objects, which is, oh, I have to go to Fairfield for this, sorry, my fault. So we transferred all of their records into our database as not being owners of that stuff, because it's actually National Park Service's owners of that collection, but we're cataloging it in our system to be able to use it and show it and that kind of thing. So let me go find them. So here's all the objects from National Park Service that we were able to import. Some have photos, some don't. Over here on the left-hand side, so this is just the regular like spreadsheet display view. Actually, just for kicks so you can see stuff, I'm going to go to thumbnails. And there's a couple of their documentary photographs of things that they found. So if you go over to visualize here, it'll say map with a little pull down, which the only pull down is map. Click the arrow. And you can see things that were entered here. So there was a little bit of a weirdness with the way the latitude and longitude came over. So there was like an extra 0 somewhere that we missed one of them, because you can, mark things in other countries. Like if you have a like a gown that was made by Worth, you can mark that as being made in, in Europe or made in France or whatever. But this is just happens to be, it was a odd number that we'll have to go back and fix at some point of why some of this stuff is showing up in Europe. But we go back out across the Atlantic and zoom in. So the zoom and the location works better in your own system. It's just not fully functional in the portal at this point. So you can see where they did one of the digs. They did a whole area of it, but this is one of the areas that they really focused in on. And this is where they found items. So you can go in and click on this and it'll say lead modern shot, likely modern lead shot, lead musket ball. There was a lot of musket balls. And see where things were found, what proximity. I like the unidentified hand draw iron artifact. But it gives you, and I'll go into the actual record in a second to let you show that. But it gives you like the little blurb on the object, which is pretty cool. I don't remember if it shows the picture or not. I'll have to go in and see. It theoretically does, but there was only a small percentage of items that were photographed. So this is where a lot of things were found and concentrated, and kind of cool to be able to see that, to see where things were spread out and where they weren't. Let's see. I can hit escape and I can go out of there. Go into one of the random records and go into geography. So if you straight enter the latitude and longitude, it comes up as the number here. So that's also a good case for using the geographic notes down here to say this is the actual location for this. Is 118 Oxford Road, because regularly just seeing this, that's not going to make much of a difference to you. Let me see. There's not used all my examples. There's not a lot to geography as far as using it, unlike some of the other things. So it's pretty straightforward. Did I do an actual search up here? I did. I'll do another one in the sandbox just for kicks. Oh, I want Ogden, I want Bronson. You will sometimes end up If you don't get specific about things, you may end up in a really weird place. So before you assume, like sometimes zoom out, because I've looked something up and I have ended up in Europe just by free text like typing in. I've also ended up weirdly with some of the lat longs like in the middle of the Atlantic, which is interesting. So at that point, you kind of know something's off and you want to go in and check it. So in this case, like I'm putting just Bronson Road in, trying to do like a whole line of this is a little bit hard if we were going to use that little line option. So for something like this, I'd probably just use, if I didn't know where it was. Oops. I'd probably use like the larger, it's somewhere in here. And, you know, like anything with the system, it's not all written in stone. So if you later on find out there's a better location for it, you can go in and tweak that. Either by adding a georeference and doing another one, or if you wanted to get rid of one, you can just click on the little X here. Again, don't do the delete, that's the whole entire record. But if you just were like, oh, this is totally not where I want this, just click the little X and it's fine, it'll go away. And then you can just add another for wherever you are. Yes, I want to leave this side. Does anyone have any questions about geography?
I'll just share a comment. In Westport, what we've done is this has been useful for the sculptures we have outdoors in parks. Because sometimes it's hard to find out exactly where they are. And they don't have a street address, obviously, because it's a big park. So we've used it to pinpoint where the outdoor sculptures are. So that's been useful.
Yeah, that's good. I was hoping you guys were going to use that for that because I thought of you with the geography tab because I know you have things in like farther locations. So, you know, it'd be cool for you guys to be able to like see it on a map too in the future. So you can be like, this thing is here. You can go visit it.
Right. So we've done that. Yeah. So that's great.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to add almost like a privacy feature to that or not, to the geography, because I know with archaeological digs, they don't always like to map out where things are like in a public thing like that. So I need to look into that a little bit because we're supposed to be sharing a lot of the dig artifacts online to show what was found. But I don't know if they really want to put the actual location just because some of the areas are private homes. And we had landowner approval to go on and do this, but I don't know that they necessarily want to be like, hey, there's stuff in my house, because archaeology people are not the like actual archaeologists, but kind of the metal detector buffs. You don't know what they're going to end up going and searching around and trying to find. So I need to talk to tech and see if there's a way to like individually say like, make this public, make this not. I kind of don't want to have to make people go in and do like a public access, not public access thing, yet another one for that, but we'll see. The other part is like, honestly, that little globe view on the display on the portal isn't super like right in your face that it's there. So kind of unless you know, you're probably just going to ignore it, but I don't know if I want to chance that, so we'll see. So if there's ever any concern about something like that, let me know. If anybody's like, oh, I love this feature, but yeah, there's a couple things I don't really want to say where it was found or something like that. Anybody else have any questions? And you know, honestly, we're good with geography. So if you have a geography question, great. If you have a question about something else, feel free to ask at this point.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Once you get used to it.
Yep, exactly. They updated it at some point last year, so it kind of changed a little bit, but wasn't too bad. You used to be able to, in the search box, put like corner of Beach Road and Old Post Road, and it doesn't seem to be doing it anymore, which is a little sad, but honestly, if you know which at least one road is, you can look at the map and put a pin there. But yeah, so if nobody else has any questions at this point, we can end for this week and hopefully see you all next month. And I don't remember what our topic is. I think, oh, we're talking about entities next month, I think. And kind of a couple different ways to approach entities and kind of a couple questions and things like that. We may get into a little bit of cleanup of entities too. But those are always interesting to do. So that'll be next month. So we'll be in April, hopefully be definitely nice and warm by then, hopefully not as many April showers. So, okay, everybody have a good afternoon. And as always, feel free to email me any questions, ctco@clho.org, and happy cataloging.
Great. Thanks, Diane.
Mm-hmm.